Welcome to today's Projectiology book club. We have two presenters today, as usual. They are Tony and Tatiana, who both are originally from Brazil, but today come to us from Cairns. Tony is a psychologist, facilitator, and writer. He has a master's degree in peace and conflict studies and has studied and run workshops and researched Conscientiology for over 30 years. His main focus of study is serenology, the study of the Homo sapiens serenissimus. And Tony is currently a volunteer for the international project Biblio Africa. And Tatiana has a bachelor's degree in business and a graduate diploma in teaching and higher education. She is a polyglot writer and educator and works with training and development. She's been interested in parapsychic phenomena from an early age and has been a Conscientiology volunteer for over 2 decades, as well as researching the intermissive course. She's currently researching presential strength. And she too is a volunteer with Biblio Africa. So Tony and Tatiana have prepared a presentation, so you can start sharing now, Tatiana. And I don't know if there's any other opening remarks, Magali, before I forget. No? Okay, all good. So over to you guys.
All right, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be sharing with you guys some ideas about these chapters of projectiology. I'm going to share my screen. Just hold on. All right. Okay. So today I want to start our chat, and it's actually a chat, and I would love to hear from you guys throughout our presentation. So before we started, I was talking with Tony about how we would like to be, doing this presentation. And the idea is that we can actually share some ideas and hear from you guys, from your experience, from your examples, phenomena that you have experienced. So feel free to ask questions anytime. And I found this sentence from Professor Waldo Vieira in Projectiology on page 812 that I wanted to start this conversation. And that's what he says: awaken the lucid projector that sleeps within you. So it's really interesting, and probably you guys who have been going through, the projectiology throughout the year have experienced that as well. But whenever I myself read the treatise Projectiology, it amazes me every time. Every time I read it, it's just a boost of energy and ideas and the motivation to experience and develop the lucid projection, right? So this is the idea that I wanted to start this chat. And let's go ahead. And so the first aspect or chapter that I wanted to show you guys and discuss with you is the first lucid projection. So the first lucid projection is an experience that happens. It can happen with anyone. And I wanted to hear from you guys as well later on, that it's when the consciousness has their first experience in the extra-physical dimension. So it's a life-changing moment that can change the whole life of the projector, because sometimes they experience, and it's very common to see in books and movies, sometimes people just don't even know about this experience, and for some reason they experience their first lucid projection. They see themselves out of their body, thinking the way we are thinking right now, sometimes looking at their physical body on the bed, sleeping. Sometimes they can see the silver cord as well, connecting the psychosoma to the soma. So all these little details that we study in the book Projectiology are experienced by the projector at this situation. And these little things are so overwhelming, so interesting, so shocking sometimes, that they will never forget that experience. So, and why does this kind of experience happen, and why do some people have it and others don't, right? So first, this experience is spontaneous. Could this experience be sponsored by a helper? Yes, of course, it could be for some reason. Could it be just like a natural phenomena that happens, like it happens every night with us when we sleep, but at that specific day or that specific night, the projector for some reason was more lucid, and he was able to actually see themselves out of the body? Could be as well, right? And could be also that someone who was studying about this experience wanted to try and decided to develop some techniques, to try some techniques with bioenergies and projective techniques as well. And they achieved, they were successful in achieving the experience with lucidity. So it could happen in any of these situations, right? And it's interesting to see in projectiology that there are some reasons or some things, some thoughts, kinds of thoughts that the person thinks at the moment they see themselves out of the body. So usually they sort of wake up, or sometimes they actually feel themselves leaving the physical body. And once they see themselves in that reality, the first question they ask is, am I dead? So sometimes in this moment, they are really shocked and they just go back to the physical body right away. And the other kinds of thoughts people have is, I'm scared, I'm horrified, I'm terrified, what is going on? And they see their physical bodies. So this also gives them, they could be scared, but they could be curious as well to look at the physical body. Sometimes they look at the physical body, but they don't even notice that it's their own physical body. And this could happen as well. And so all these sorts of things can happen in this moment and makes it a one-in-a-lifetime lucid projection. So it's good for you guys, for everyone now, have a think. When was your first lucid projection? When did it happen? Or how did it happen? And how did you feel when you saw yourself out of your body? And so maybe you saw your physical body, maybe you saw your bedroom or your house, or you're just flying over the place, over your house. How did you feel? And why did it happen to you at that time? So have you got any idea about that? It's good that maybe you can discuss it later on. And Professor Waldo also talks about some actions that show lack of experience. So when people have this first lucid projection, they don't have experience. They don't know the characteristics of the psychosoma, which is a body that is much more subtle than the physical body. So, for example, what happens is they walk in the room, for example, They they avoid the furniture. If they are walking, they are avoiding the furniture. And obviously, if you are projected out of your body, the furniture, it doesn't really matter, because you can just go through these physical things, material things, and it doesn't really affect your movements in the extra physical dimension. So sometimes people use their para hands to touch things, and they sometimes walk through the stairs to go up and down in their place, in their house, and they don't even know that they can fly, actually, right? They try to open doors and close doors, and they don't know sometimes that they can just go through the walls because of the anatomy and characteristics of the psychosoma. So, and the last thing that Professor Waldo says in terms of these lack of experience actions is that when someone or when somebody sees themselves projected out of the physical body and feeling all the energy and all the extra physical reality, they can be so overwhelmed by that environment, that information, and that reality, the extra physical reality, that once they are back into their physical bodies, they are so excited, and they might have this triumphalism. They just have, they are so excited, so happy, and their level of lucidity goes down, and sometimes they just go everywhere and talk to anybody about it in the right moment with the wrong people, and people start to think they are like nuts or something. So this might happen as well. Okay, guys, let's go ahead. Can I go ahead? Do you have any questions here?
I mean, just one thing I was thinking about furniture. I mean, I guess, what about extra physical furniture? So sometimes you have extra physical replicas of an intraphysical environment, right? So which kind of does have a tangibility to it then, doesn't it? Like, it's just the intraphysical that's permeable, really.
Yeah, so these extra physical objects and furniture, they are made of energy as well, like morphoscenes. And sometimes it could be also from the projector conditioning, right? Conditioning. So if they project themselves out of the body and they see themselves in their bedroom, or if they feel they are, or if they think they are in their house, sometimes they are just in another extra physical dimension, but in their minds and their conditioning, they feel as if they were in their bedroom, and this might end up of them making these morphoscenes in that environment and seeing that reality as if it was in their bedroom. So all these kinds of stuff can happen as well. And the main idea is that we are trying to look for lucid projections, right? So that's why here in this topic, we are talking about first lucid projections, because the level of lucidity changes so much in one experience due to tons of situations, right? Or level of emotions, the load of energy that we have in the psychosoma, and I'm going to talk about it soon. The extra-physical consciousnesses who are in the environment as well. So all these influences the projector doing the projection. But you are right, this furniture that could definitely exist through morphoscenes, right? Cool. Let's go ahead then. So this is a very interesting kind of projection as well, which is called double projection. I'm going to summarize it here. So for example, if you see in this image here, you have the physical body, then the yellowish part here is the energosoma, and then this more subtle image, the body is the psychosoma, and then the mental soma, right? What usually happens, or what we normally think a projection out of the body could be, is you are sleeping and then you feel you are leaving your physical body, right? And then you are projected using your psychosoma. This is what normally we think about a projection. And we do also have the projection with the mental soma, right? Which is the more subtle body. Could be another example, which is more unusual, right? It's more the less common than the projection through the psychosoma. But in the double projection, what happens is, for example, you can project yourself through the psychosoma using your psychosoma first. And when you are already in the extra-physical dimension, you have another projection to the mental soma. So it's like a two-step projection. The first projection, you are in the intraphysical body. You project with your psychosoma. And then in the extra-physical dimension, you have another projection of the consciousness using your mental soma, right? So that's why it's double projection. A second situation could happen as well. You first have a projection out of the body using your mental soma. So you have a projection with the mental soma, mental somatic dimension, right? And after that, you have your psychosoma projects out of your body, and then you connect to your psychosoma in the extra-physical dimension. This is super specific kind of projection. I haven't had this kind of projection, at least that I remember, that I can remember, or with lucidity, but it's a very specific kind of projection. And my question is, where is the consciousness located during this kind of experience? Where's the consciousness? Because you have a double projection, right? First, you have you have a projection with the psychosoma, then you project with the mental soma, or you have a first mental soma projection, and then you go to the psychosoma and you have a projection with the psychosoma in the extra-physical dimension. So where's the consciousness in this whole situation? Any thoughts?
I reckon it's in a mental soma.
It's in the mental soma?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. So the consciousness is always located in the mental soma, right? So wherever the mental soma is, the consciousness is going to be. And when you have for example, the first projection out of the body using your mental soma, the consciousness is there, right? And then the psychosoma is projected, but the consciousness at this moment is not there yet. It's going to be connected through the golden cord, right? And then we are going to be manifesting ourselves through the psychosoma. Okay, so the there is no question about it. Wherever the mental soma is, the consciousness is going to be there, right? Good, good. Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
All right. So, and then we have here on the right, natural projection versus forced lucid projection. So, the natural projection is the projection that is just spontaneous, right? It's spontaneous. There is no provocation. There is no stress that for some reason force the consciousness to go out of the physical body, like an out of near-death experience, for example. And it's usually not, it could be non-lucid and it could be lucid as well, as we have seen already, right? And they can, for example, have some levels of motivation to have this kind of experience. The person can have just a good night of sleep, for example, and they have out-of-body experiences naturally, or they can be in the hospital, for example, and they are sick, they are taking some medicine, and they are really relaxed, and they have a natural experience as well. And the forced lucid projection happens when there is a stressful factor, a stressor, right? Something happens that forces the psychosoma to go out of the physical body. So it's very common, for example, in car accidents, when the person is driving the car, then there's a shock, and in this shock of the accident, the car accident, the person is projected out of the body, right? Emotional breakdown. So for a very critical situation happens and the person is so impacted by that, and they are forced out of the body, right? An explosion in the battlefield, for example, it's very common to hear people in wars, they have these kinds of escape projection, which is called. It's like they are trying to escape from that stressful situation, and they are suddenly projected out of the body. Surgeries, drugs as well can cause these kinds of forced lucid projections. Okay, let's go ahead. Consciential projection of the compound double. So the main aspect of this projection of the consciousness is that when the consciousness is projected out of the body, they bring a load of energies from the energosoma together with them. And this happens naturally for many reasons. But the most important thing is that when the projector is out of the body with a lot of energy in their psychosoma, this makes lucidity much more difficult. So when you, I don't know if you have experienced that, but we can discuss this later on. You are out of the body, but things feel really, really heavy and dense and slow, and you can't think quite right. Your level of lucidity oscillates so much, and you feel as if you are walking, or your movements as if they were in slow motion. The time sometimes you are projected for a few minutes, and it feels as if you were projected for hours. So this happens because you have a lot of energy in your psychosoma, and this makes really hard for you to have more lucidity, discernment, acuity, your will to do things, and to for example, to fly and to get out of your room, for example, or for the place you are at. It's really harder because you are heavy. You have a lot of energy in your psychosoma. And in this situation, what happens is that usually helpers try to boost your lucidity and try to give you some ideas, inspire you, be around you, so you can try to be more aware. You know, when you are, for example, you are very tired and you are reading a book or you're studying, and it's so hard to understand what is in there. You can't assimilate that information, and you have someone beside you, by your side, saying, look, pay attention, this is very important, look at this word, write this down. So this person is trying to help you be more, you know, awake. So this is sort of what the helpers do in this moment. And the technique, if you feel yourself like that, when you are projected out of your body, just remember to send your energies outwards, exteriorize your energies, so you can lower the level of energy, this density of your energosoma, and it might help you with your lucidity. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead. So this is another example of projection, which is called postnatal regressive semi-lucid consciential projection. It's a big word, and I'm going to summarize it as well. Okay, so why is it postnatal? Because it's related to this lifetime. Okay, this lifetime that we are now. It's our projection related to this life. But it's regressive. It has to do with a previous time, not the current time. So you are projected to a time, to a situation related to your past in this life. And it's semi-lucid because you start having this kind of projection sometimes through a dream. So you're sleeping, you start dreaming, for example, of the house you lived when you were a kid. So in my case, when I was a child, I lived in the Amazon with my parents, right, where I'm originally from. And we used to have a swimming pool in our place. And sometimes when I dream that I'm in that swimming pool, in that place, that it doesn't exist anymore. I mean, the house is there, but my family doesn't live there anymore. They live in another house. But this kind of dream might start with this dream, but become a lucid projection. So I could start dreaming about that place, that house, that swimming pool that I loved. And when I was a kid, I used to go to the swimming pool all the time. So I dream about that place, and this sort of evocates that reality, those energies of that place, and might contribute to my projection to that specific intraphysical place. So I just project myself to that place, and it's semi-lucid. Sometimes I'm not very lucid in this kind of experience. And what happens is, usually people have this kind of projection when they start thinking about things about the past, schools they went when they were kids, previous houses they lived when they were younger, workplaces they used to work, and for some reason they dream about that, and this dream sort of take them in a semi-lucid projection to that place. Is that clear? Yes? Cool. All right. I don't have much time anymore, so I have to speed up. Okay, so Tony can take over. But I'm going just to talk about this educational consciential projection. That is a projection that has to do with helpers. They, for some reason, will teach you something, and you learn some lessons from that experience. Sometimes these kinds of projections out of the body will take you to an educational environment, or to a situation where you will learn something, you have an inspiration about something, or a situation will happen that when you go back to your physical body, this will make you reflect about specific traits that you need to change, or something in your life that you need to recycle. And sometimes they use pictures and morpho those scenes as well. So I have this kookaburra here to share with you an experience I had when I came to Australia a few months after I had moved to Australia. I had a projection just like this one, and it was full of morpho scenes. There were images like it was like a movie, an old movie, and very colorful images, and a lot of images of nature, and this dense energy related to nature in Australia. And in the end, I saw exactly an image like this one, this kookaburra here, a very colorful, bright kookaburra. And with this experience, I noticed there was an extra physical helper who was for some reason or in a way welcoming me in Australia, welcoming myself in Australia, and introducing herself to me. And it was an extra physical helper. I didn't know her, and I have no idea who she is, but I felt it was a helper that for some reason was helping me here in Australia. And she wanted to connect, to have this connection through this image of a kookaburra. And from that experience on, I have had lots of synchronicities with this bird. And sometimes when I have to make some decisions, they fly just in front of me. So I have this connection with this helper, and this makes me think about some extra physical aspects when I'm making some decisions. Yeah, and this is definitely some kind of educational consciential projection that I had. Okay, so guys, I don't have much time anymore, so I'm just going to go really quickly if Tony lets me. Is it okay, Tony, if you give me 5 minutes?
No problem. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you can have more, a little bit. We have a little time more for you.
No,
so
she can
no
go.
problem.
She can go. It's no problem. We can discuss this in our relationship later.
Okay, cool. All right. So, the next chapter Professor Waldo talks about is the theory of the intensive courses. And as most of you know, it's a theme of research that I have, and have studied this theme for quite a few years already, decades actually. And I really like this image because it shows the personal multi-existential cycle that has to do with our resomas and the somas, right? So we spend some intraphysical time, some lives in the intraphysical dimension. Once we go through the death, to intraphysical death, which we call the soma, we continue living our lives in the extraphysical dimension for some time. And then we prepare ourselves, we resomate again, we come to intraphysical dimension, have another life, and this goes on till we achieve a level of evolution that we don't actually need to be reborn again to learn and to evolve, right? So this happens throughout millennia, right? Millennia. So this is sort of how we could say in a nutshell the way the technical way, technically how we evolve, right? So let's imagine we are here in this intraphysical period, 2022. So we have this life. In the end of our lives, we are going to go through the soma, to die, pass away. And in the extraphysical period, we might be able to enroll in an intermissive course, which is a course that will prepare us to develop an existential program, a life project, and be successful at achieving these goals of this project, right? And this project has to do with our own evolution plus the evolution of the planet. So when a person participates or is part of an intermissive course, they go through a technical preparation to implement projects that will benefit the community, the planet, or a group of consciousnesses that are not only intraphysical consciousnesses, they could be consciexes as well. And the person becomes an agent of change wherever they go, the intermissivist. So the person who does an intermissive course is called an intermissivist, right? So we probably in our previous life, extraphysical lifetime period, that we call the intermission, right? The intermission between this intraphysical life, we might have done an intermissive course. And in this situation, we might think about the specific environment where we prepared ourselves to do this course. So there are many projectors and researchers as well that have actually experienced either retrocognitions, memories from the life or the intermissive periods where they were preparing for this lifetime. And they actually have memories of these campuses where they were preparing for this lifetime. And also projectors like us at the moment here in the intraphysical life, we also can have experienced out of the body experiences, projections, where we go to extraphysical dimensions where intermissive courses are happening right now at the moment, right? And we can visit these places like projectors and be watching that environment and perceiving the environment with lucidity as well. And these people who have experienced these projections or memories from the intermissive period, they say that these places where they take the intermissive courses are like university campuses, actually, with classrooms, teachers, students, and all kinds of technology that help them learn about themselves and prepare themselves for a proexis, right? So it's university style with a very important difference, which is the paratechnology, a lot of different kinds of technology that we don't actually have in the intraphysical dimension. And it has a lot to do with the use of energies of morphothocenes as well. And students also might have residential schools, internships, and other kinds of activities and practical activities to experiment the intraphysical dimension when they are still in the extraphysical dimension. So, for example, once we are in the extraphysical dimension doing an intermissive course, we are really not connected to any feelings of the soma anymore, the physical body. And we just manifest ourselves using the psychosoma, which is a more subtle body. And we are much more lucid and aware of more subtle realities. So the interphysical reality, the physical body, breathing, all, you know, these aspects of living the material dimension, we just don't experience, we don't remember anymore. So sometimes we experience this in some kinds of classes as well, right? In terms of academics, we have the Homo sapiens serenissimus, right? Who have actually created the intermissive courses and implemented. So they have the intermissive courses were not created on Earth. They were created in other planets. They were successful courses. And once our planet was in the right time to train people for the reorbexes, the extra-physical reurbanizations, they just brought this course and implemented here as well. And who did this were the Serenissimi, right? The evolutiologists, who are the teachers, the professors of these courses, and we might have some specialists as well, trainees as well, that might be participating in one another course, right? In terms of parapedagogy, a very, very homeostatic environment, very, very positive. And people have the opportunity to interact with peers and share their traits, their difficulties in a very, very positive environment. And also self-reflection chambers. So this is part of the intermissive course as well. Many opportunities for the intermissivists to reflect about themselves, their past, their previous life, the one that they have just left, and see and make a balance, right? See what was positive, what was negative, and also have a broad idea of their evolutionary level, taking into account their holobiography. And this also has to do with these conscientiometric gatherings. These are moments where intermissivists they get together to do some kinds of chats. They catch up on their lives, on their previous lives, what they have done, their achievements, their gaps, their failures, and this exchange of ideas is very important for them to prepare their future practices as a group as well. And the parapsychotheca, which is an extra-physical chamber of reflection, where the intermissivist is able to recollect all the information from their whole memory, their whole biography, and think about what steps they can do in the future to change, to improve and to evolve from that point on. And in terms of the classrooms, indoor classrooms, outdoor classrooms, other dimensions, outer space, sometimes students have field trips to other planets to broaden their sense of universalism, diversity, and this can happen as well in multiple extra-physical communities, right? Okay, and what does an intermissivist study in the intermissive course? I usually say in a didactic way that we have two phases. The first phase is related to past present. So in the first phase, they have that chamber of reflection, the parapsychotheca. They think about their past lives as much as they can go in terms of guts and lucidity. So the idea is that we can try to go as further as we can in the past to understand our reality, our multidimensional, multi-existential reality. But this depends on our level of lucidity and our emotions. So we go up to the point we can, right? So in this first phase, we make like a balance of these moments throughout all our previous lives and the past, to see what was good, what was bad, what we should improve. And then phase 2, once we know what we need to change, we are going to actually study the disciplines that will help us gain knowledge and the skills to actually plan and execute a proexis once we are born in the upcoming life, right? And this is when we study all these aspects, the bioenergies, proexis, existential program, the parapsychism, because the parapsychism is actually what will help us recall all this information once we are born in the intraphysical life. And then you name it, each person has different kinds of disciplines that they are going to study, and this is taught in a different way. Obviously, students have groups, study groups, they have disciplines in common, but there are some other aspects that sometimes it's just me, the intermissivist, and the evolutionologist, for example, to discuss specific aspects of the upcoming life, right? And to finish, the last one, just a quick summary of these quarters of the intermissive course. This is a very interesting, actually, entry of the encyclopedia from Professor Waldo Vieira. He talks about these four quarters of the intermissive course. So the first one is called the acquisitive. It's in the extraphysical dimension. So we are in the extraphysical dimension in the intermissive course, preparing for the maxi proexis, liaising with the evolutionologists, preparing our lives, planning our future life in detail, and having the contact with the helpers, with the other intermissivists. It's a period of extraphysical learning. So this is the first quarter. Once we reborn, after this quarter, we have the second quarter that is in the intraphysical dimension already. It's the executive part of the proexis, right? So the execution of the maxi proexis, that's when we do all our intraphysical recyclings, do the big projects in our lives, change our ego and do the bigger projects, assistential projects, and use the principle of personal exemplarism. So we become, as intermissivists, examples everywhere we go, through what we say or ideas, and we are referenced to other people through our energies and our ideas. This is what Professor Waldo calls the period of intraphysical application, and that's what we aim at completing the proexis, right? Achieving the complexes. Then we have the third quarter. It's called the distributive. It's still in the intraphysical life, okay? It's the effective contribution to the world state. So once you have this more ego karmic and group karmic achievement in terms of proexis, you achieved your goals, you have your complexes, you are ready to expand your level of assistance to a more polykarmic level. And this may or may not happen to the intermissivist, right? Depending on how they go with their proexis. But this is a moment where there's a bigger, broader interaction with the intraphysical society, an evolutionary consolidation. So you might be achieving other levels of evolution. You might not be just a pre-serenissimus, right? You could achieve like deporticity, intrusion freeness, or other levels as well. And it's the period of intraphysical hetero application of the intermissive courses. This is more broad and more advanced, I believe, in my perception. We can discuss this later. And the fourth quarter is the roundup, and it's the extraphysical already. So in this fourth quarter, we already have gone through the soma. We go back to the extra-physical dimension. And at this moment, Professor Waldo called it the period of the intermissive harvest. What is the intermissive harvest? So throughout your lifetime, you are sowing the seeds, right, of your achievements, your proexis. You you started doing some benefit to society and doing probably challenges that you have overcome and all kinds of stuff. And once you are back in the extra-physical dimension, it's the period of the harvest. So for example, I like this example that Professor Waldo always says of writing a book. So once you write your book and you publish your book, and then you go through the soma, you die, you go to the extra-physical dimension, and people are going to read your book. And when they read your book, they are going to evocate you. They are going to think about you because you are the author of the book, but you are in the extra-physical dimension already. And once they evocate you, your readers, you'll have the chance to become their helpers, to inspire them, to give them ideas, to give them some insight of their lives, their proexis, or even things related to the theme of the book that you have written and that the reader is interested in, right? So this is a very interesting example. And that's it. I'm done. And let's go ahead. Okay, guys, we can chat more later, but I'm going to stop sharing here. And Tony, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Let's go ahead. And I would like to start my presentation by going back into a question Tatiana raised, which is where the consciousness is, or where our consciousness is located. So I would like to raise this question because we are studying Projectiology. This is the book we're studying here. So what is this about? When we start thinking and reflecting about this question, and when we think that our consciousness is not inside the brain because it's not a product, a chemical or a psychological product of the brain, when we think that the consciousness is not in the energetic body, is not in the psychosoma, but is in fact in the mental soma, which is the more advanced vehicle or body that we have, we can think that if we are in the mental soma, it means that the mental soma is a body that exists in a place or a dimension that has no space, that has no time. And if you are in a place or in a body that has no space and no time, actually our consciousness is everywhere. We are everywhere. At the end of the day, the consciousness is everywhere. So let's start thinking about that. The very or the most important proof that we can say that the consciousness, our consciousness is everywhere, is when we experience a phenomena called cosmoconsciousness, when we have the sense where we belong to the universe. So it's about the projectiology, understanding the location, the idea of how to locate the consciousness. So when we understand that, we start understanding the basics of projectiology. Actually, the consciousness, it doesn't leave the body. It doesn't make sense saying that it's inside or outside the body. Actually, the consciousness focus its attributes like attention, memory, perception in a specific idea or feeling or context. And when we learn how to turn this focus, we start experience this new phenomena or the expansion of our consciousness. So let's think about that. We are talking about out of the body experience here. So we are talking about how we can learn to detach our self from animal, material, human experiences and focus in other frames of reality. That's the main idea of the projectiology and the out-of-the-body experience studies. So going back to the chapters we are supposed to present today, I just would like to start sharing my first one, which is this one, the joint lucid projections. Using this idea I presented before, we can think that we can have expanded states of consciousness with other people. We can meet people outside of the body or in astrophysical dimension. So if you have affinity with other people or even pets, or even, for example, a pregnant woman and her baby, relatives or family, or people, even people that we have affinity, but they belong to previous lives. We can meet these people outside of the body. You know, it's this is about the affinity. And I put this image, I don't know, this image actually, it's going to show how old we are, because if you understand it, you are going to, if you recognize it, you are going to belong to some decades ago from now. This is a screenshot from a video clip from AHA, which is a rock band. And why I'm putting this image in the joint lucid projection? Because there is a case of a Brazilian girl that she wrote a book minutes ago. My presentation, I was able to find this book. It's in Portuguese, and she explains her experience she had in the past when she was a girl, and she had dreams with a boy. And over the years, she started having not only joint projections or dreams with this boy, but also seriated lucid projections, which means she was having multiple projections over years, and they meet each other in the astrophysical dimension. And one day she saw that this guy, this boy, is actually a singer of this rock band. And they met in Brazil when he was doing a concert in Brazil, and they recognized each other. So this is very interesting because it's a real case. There is a book behind of this history. It's not a famous case. Later, the band, they denied that the history, they minimized, they downsized that because it doesn't belong to the music and the celebrity world. But anyway, it's a public case that you can explain this kind of experience, which means there is an affinity. But on the other hand, it can be differences between the phenomena. For example, if myself and my partner, we meet each other outside of the body in the same dimension, we will have different perceptions of the same event, because we have different minds, we have different focus, we are different consciousness. So we are going to create different interpretations around that joint projections. But some of these points will be the same. And when we return to the body, we can confirm, we can have a confirmation that proves the reality of that experience. And actually, this is one of the best ways to prove the existence of the projectiology, the psychosoma, the extraphysical dimension, and the life after life. This is a scientific or self-scientific evidence of the existence of that. And it also is a way to create the opportunity to help people. When you leave the body and meet other people, we can help the counterpart of this projection by showing techniques like how to fly, how to face fears, how to control our own emotions outside of the body, or even how to de-intruse, which means how to help this person to be more healthy in terms of her own ideas and thoughts, doing like a therapeutic approach or a physical therapeutic approach during these projections. So this is the joint lucid projections. And we have, I'm going to jump this one.
Tony, sorry, can I just jump in with a couple of questions?
Sure.
I was curious, I mean, it's interesting when you talk about the affinity, because in that case with the Brazilian girl, I'm assuming she did not know the singer before. They didn't know each other physically. So in that case, I guess the affinity would have to have been from an unconscious affinity from a previous life, right? So there, presumably, there must be some connection that they, so maybe I'd be interested to hear your comments about that. And the other question I have is about timing. So it sort of relates to your concept about consciousness being everywhere, and you know, we know there's issues. We know that time doesn't necessarily apply in the same way in extraphysical dimensions. You know, would you think that two people have to be, you know, asleep physically at the same time to project at the same time? Or to have a joint projection, as it were, or could they be asleep at different times, you know, be out of the body at different times, but extraphysically be in the same time zone, if you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
that sort of, yeah.
Yes, your first question. I also agree that there is affinity from previous lives, or from the intermissive or extraphysical. It doesn't matter, but in the past. I can share my own experience. For example, when I moved to Australia, I start meeting with new people, and some of these people, I really feel like a lot of affinity. People from work, my clients, neighbors, you know. So how do I feel this affinity with these people that I never met? So if I have this in interphysical dimension, we will have this extraphysically as well, the same thing. So the question is, Kim, perhaps you know a lot of people all around the world, but you don't know them. You know, I remember I had an experience a few weeks ago, a projection, where I saw people dying in the Ukrainian war. And when I saw the soldiers, I never saw their faces, but they are my family. And the helper told me, hey, these guys are, they are your family. They are dying now. Help them. So I felt the affinity with them, but I didn't have the chance to visit Ukraine to see them face to face. So we know people from everywhere. Our group of karma is huge, but you didn't have the chance to meet them face to face. So that's the beauty of the projectiology, that you can meet people outside of the body and expand your assistentiality by doing that. The second question is about time. We experienced this in Australia and with our families or friends in Brazil. I usually have friends that say, hey, Tony, I had a projection with you tonight. We are doing this, we are doing that, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey, while you were having your projection, I was awake. I was not having my projection because we experienced a huge difference of time zones here. It's when is day here is night there, and vice versa, you know. So I think we can have extra physical multi-dimension experience even if you are part in the physical body, but sharing some kind of parapsychical experience with somebody else that is out of the body at the same time, you know. I think it's possible, but I don't have, theoretically, but I don't have this experience for myself to share or give you more details. If you can have memories, and if the time that we're going to explain in a few chapters ahead is plastic, it's elastic, and is dynamic, I think it's possible we have this kind of simulcognition, even if both people are in different time frames or time zones or dimensions, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is the consciential connection between them, and the scenario and time and space, this is a second layer of reality that can mix and create misinterpretations in our perceptions. I don't know if I answer a question. It's a very complicated question, but yeah, that's the theory I have so far about that. Yeah. All right, let's move ahead. Mental soma and psychosoma. And I also would like to share an experience between the difference of when you are projected with your psychosoma and when you are using or projected by or with your mental soma. I remember when I was in Brazil, I was doing consciential therapy, and in one of the sections, we start working and doing some energetic exercises, and then I left my body. Exactly how Tatiana explained with the double projection. First, I left my body, and I was using my psychosoma, because I felt my para limbs, my para hands. I had a notion of space. I was in the consciential therapy set at the moment. I saw my body and the therapists from above. So I had a different point of view when I was at this moment. But seconds later, I start feeling something in my para head, and then it expands. And when it expands, the memories, the knowledge, the perception of myself went to a completely complex, and it's very hard to put in words. I felt myself, as we can see, function form consciousness, which means we are like an energetic ball, a sphere, full of knowledge, with no human forms, no shapes. There is no way of having intrusion, no negative or no animal reactions. You feel your consciousness, naked consciousness, which is amazing, because I start having a lot of memories, and I have like visions of astrophysical campus and a lot of books. And I understood that this was related to my Proexis, my interphysical life, and the task I should and I must do in this physical life, which is writing, which is writing books. So I remember what I was planning to myself in the intermissive course. And this was a kind of retrocognition, but at the same time, I was seeing the astrophysical and the intermissive course at the same time. So Kim, at that moment, it was past and present, and also thinking about my future in this life at the same time. So it's hard, because our language, it's a time-space language. We cannot translate it into English or whatever. So it's very hard to put in words. So this is the difference.
There is a There is a nice word by an anthropologist to describe the dreaming, the Aboriginal concept of the dreaming, and he coined the phrase "every when" to capture its significance, or its time. You know, it's time. It's everywhere.
Yeah. There is a move about extraterrestrial life called The Arrival, which used the idea of the time in terms of cycles. So this is very interesting concept, and I think it's something similar from the mental soma paradigm or mental soma point of view. Let's move ahead. So I was talking about these seriated lust projections, which is the idea of you have projections in chapters. This can happen in one single night when you have like, this is the graphic of the brain waves over 8 hours of sleep time. So we are here now awake, and then we go into a deep and very low module of brain waves, and then have some jumps, ups and downs, you know. And in some periods of time, we have a very agitated sleep. And some of these periods, we have a very deep state of relaxation and recovering of our body. So between these periods of waves, we can have different projections in one single night. And when we wake up in the morning next day, we remember all this, and sometimes this is all mixed and it's all together and confused in our memory. That's why sometimes we don't understand why we were talking to Kim in a projection, and then I was in Disneyland, and then I was in Brazil next time, and then I was cooking. So different scenarios, different people in different circumstances. Because when we compact and retrieve this information when you are waking up, we mix all together. So it's a matter of practice. When you start writing and making a diary and making a book of your own experience and writing it every day, you will train your memory in terms of record and organize this experience. So this is in one night. And this book, Projections of Consciousness, explain the same phenomena, but over months or even years. So if you guys have the chance to study this book, you'll see that there are, Professor Waldo explained multiple projections, and some projections are connected, some chapters are connected. There is a line, a connection, a link between different or multiple experiences. I remember I have, in my case, projections since my childhood when I visit a university campus, not that campus I was mentioned before. This one is an old university with, is a more like baratospheric and disorganized extraphysical environment. And I usually go there. I don't know why. I don't understand this. It's an academic environment, and it's all about going to a classroom and watching and attending classes and talking to teachers and other students. So this is like a series of projections that explain something about me and something about my self-research I need to do to understand why I connected to this environment, this astrophysical environment. Okay, so I put a question here: what can prevent a person from not having lucid projections or progressive development of the parapsychism? Why I put this here? Because sometimes we have a recess or a period of time in our lives that we have nothing, we have no experience. We are stuck in the intraphysical dimension with no parapsychic experience at all. And why this happened, why we are stuck sometimes, or why our parapsychism doesn't develop into another level, and why prevent us to get this improved. So there are multiple points, and then we can turn this question into a debate later. But start thinking about that, and then we will discuss. I just would like to raise one idea in regards to that, which is the projection is a kind of second life we have. So if you are disorganized, if you are stressed, if you cannot deal with the tasks and the challenges of this one single intraphysical life, imagine you have two lives or a multidimensional life. How this would impact your mental health? If people are like depressed or stressed with one life, with one family, with one physical environment, imagine having multiple realities to manage at the same time. And this is not only at night when you are out of the body, it's during the day as well, because projection is not about only the out of the body experience. It's about parapsychism. When you project your energies, when you project your clairvoyance, we can see the extraphysical consciousness, when you can hear them. So imagine that this requires a high level of self-organization. Otherwise, we won't be able to deal or to manage or to face these realities. So this is the key of one of the points. But self-organizations, it's like something it's an umbrella idea. So let's try to discuss this later, okay?
So Tony, just a quick point on time. We've got about 30 minutes, under 30 minutes left for the whole session. So if we want, I don't know how much longer you've got, but it'd be nice to have 20 minutes for the discussion.
Okay,
at the end.
No problem. Let's move on. We have already talked about time here. I don't want to go back and discuss more. I just would like to raise one idea. It's about gravity. Time is related to gravity. We know that if you put a clock or a device that measures time in a spacecraft or in a satellite, this clock is going to work in a different pace than the same clock that is in the Earth. So time is connected to gravity. So in what extent, when you leave the body and we go far from the Earth or different dimensions, and we experience different levels or even low level of gravity or microgravity, this probably will impact our sense time, our subjective time, but also the measured time as well, astrophysically speaking. So memories, perceptions, past, present, and future, this is very complicated when you start thinking in terms of multidimensionality. Time is very complex, only in the interphysical dimension. Imagine putting multiple dimensions at the same time and try to discuss this idea. Actually, time is also a kind of dimension, okay? Tatiana had already explored the idea of traumas. So I just put this image because I believe that you guys had these experiences as well, of feeling that you are falling from sky and then you wake up in the middle of the night, or see extraphysical consciousness, a friend, or even a relative that has already passed away. There is a mechanism behind these extraphysical traumas, which is when we are in the intraphysicality and we experience a trauma, we move our focus to other realities. So we pass out, we have a fainting, okay? So astrophysically speaking, is the same mechanism. When you are in the astrophysical dimension and experience a trauma, we move as a self-defense mechanism to the interphysical. So we return to the body and we wake up, okay? So this prevents the consciousness from experience a trauma or from experience a more deeper negative emotion. So the way we do that is by escaping this scenario and going back or moving forward to a new scenario. So this goes back to my idea I presented at the beginning, that the consciousness is not in the body. The consciousness is everywhere. It depends on the focus we are putting the consciousness. So if you understand this mechanism, we can understand also and control and having more astrophysical projections. The next cluster of chapters will discuss the factors that are positive and also negative to the lucid projection. So I want to spend time discussing this here. I just put this idea and would like to ask Patricia, because I saw a cat with her screen there. The cats interfere with the projectability. This is just a joke, okay? But let's think next time, next class, let's save this for the next class, the physical, the physiological or psychological, or even our self mechanisms that can interfere in a positive and also negative way in the lucid projections. When I had cats at home in Brazil, it was very hard to have a very quality sleep time, because, you know, cats, they have night habits, but this is just a joke. It doesn't prevent us to have like lucid projections, okay? It's just an example for us to think about. And to finish, I'd like to raise two questions about the personal and the public uses of lucid projections. Let's think about how can the out-of-the-body experience be useful to your own life in terms of therapy, in terms of improve your mental health, in terms of teaching you new things, in terms of develop your parapsychism, or even practical things. For example, if you are looking for a place to live, you can find your new house by going out and exploring new places. That's a simple, very practical use of the projection, okay? But the projections, they also have a more broad and open utility or public uses. For example, we can use the projectability to reach the past by doing retrocognitions, or to searching for offenders, or searching for archaeological places, or even going to places that are very difficult to reach, like caverns or even mountains, or even going out doing astrophysical projections in other planets. We also have, for example, astronauts that had experience out of the body experience in the International Space Station. We have like some narratives around that as well. The understanding about psychological mechanisms, the microbiology, our DNA, or even the work or the physiology of our brain. So we can use this understanding, the projectiology, as very complex tool to explore science, to prove the existence of the human consciousness as well. This is a very public, important benefit from the lucid projections. And even, for example, if you want to develop a world map with places that have positive or negative holotoscenes, we can use this as a technique to do a kind of holotoscenic cartography in the future, you know. So projectiology is a tool. It's one of the most important and specific tools you have to improve any kind of knowledge ourselves, from practical to theoretical to scientific benefits we can extract from it. All right? So it ends my presentation.
So, and that's it. And I would like also to invite everyone for our next meeting that will be in just a moment here. It's 17 December 2022, so next month, and same time, and will be Isabela Ulites and Juliana dos Remédios. So see you there. Thank you very much, Tatiana and Tony. We hope to see you again in some other book club. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.